Today I'm going to show you how to make this cute little pumpkin craft out of reclaimed 2x6 board ends. These are a great decoration for on your front porch, on a mantle, in the middle of a table, your choice, but super easy to make. These blocks of wood are cut out of 2x6s. And this one is 8.5 inches tall, 7.5 inches tall, and 6.5 inches tall. These grooves are cut in at 1.25 inch from each side, and they're 1/8 of an inch deep. It's pretty easy to cut just on the table saw. So that makes the center just a tiny bit more than 2.25 inches wide. These have already been sanded. I used 120 grit sandpaper to do all the sides and all of the edges as well. In the very center of the top, I drilled a 3/4 of an inch hole down about 1/2 of an inch for putting the stem in. The first step is to paint with orange. You can pick which color you want. This is a spiced pumpkin. I like it to be just a little bit on the brown side. And then I like to leave it kind of a thinner layer. And that's because I actually like the color of the wood showing through a little bit. I feel like it gives it that rustic quality. Go ahead and get it as thin as you can. Pull off any extra. If you go really fast, it helps. And I go all one direction so that all of the lines are going up and down with the grain of the wood. And then I just kind of catch the edges here to make sure that we're not getting buildup of any of the paint. I always just anticipate getting some paint on my clothes and on my workspace. I really like the poster boards for a background because they're large, so I don't have to worry about getting paint where I don't want it. And like I said, just work really quick through there. We'll do the same thing to the larger one as well. Then you want to go and paint all the other sides, both the sides, the top, the bottom. I'm going to paint dark brown right into that groove. Now this paint is just a little bit watered down to make it spread better. Don't worry about if it gets on the edges a little bit because we're going to be sanding this down anyways. Kind of add to that rustic quality of it. Now that the paint's dry, I'll sand all of the edges as well as right along these little edges here. And that will give it more of the rustic kind of feel. We already have like the differing colors of brown in there from the watered down paint. It should work really well. Be a nice rustic pumpkin for us. The next step is to choose 3 separate kinds of scrapbooking paper for on the front of your pumpkins. And what you'll want to do is you'll want to make it 1/8 of an inch shorter than the height and 1/8 of an inch shorter than the width. Because when we put this on, it will go right in the center, showing some of the worn edges. And you do a separate one for each pumpkin. Make them kind of coordinating. I liked these because this had lots of different colors and designs. This was a little bit more simple, but it still carried that pumpkin design and some of the green in it. And then I really liked this one too because it was a little more simple, so I felt like it kind of balanced the other ones out. But you can choose whichever ones appeal to you. Now I really like using this spray glue for attaching my paper to the wood. You do have to be a little bit careful because anything that you get it on will remain sticky. So you just want it on the back side. This is paper that I'm devoting specifically for this project. It's great though because you can move it around really easily. I like it. And center it in the middle so that those little edges show. Press it nice and tight right against that wood. As it dries, it'll continue to stick more too. You want to work kind of fast because you don't want to have trouble with it drying first. And you can start to get a feel for how it looks already. And now we're going to give those a chance to dry. Mod Podge is the next step. I like to pour this into a different container, something that my brush can reach down into, because you just want to do a thin-ish layer over the top of everything. And I really like to use the foam brush because the foam brush keeps it from showing brush strokes. That being said, you still want to go all one direction because you could probably tell which direction you were going in. And the other thing is, like, if you look when I start partway through, you can see how it kind of clumps a little bit too much there. So really you want to start at the top and go all the way down to the bottom. So give yourself complete brush strokes. Or if you start at the bottom, go all the way to the top. And if you notice any of the corners of the paper going up, this is a good time to focus on them. The Mod Podge will be white, but it will dry clear. I don't worry about getting it in the crack very much. If some gets in there, it's fine. But more than anything, I want it to go over that paper. Because this is going to be a porch decoration, I want it to be able to withstand the elements. Now you could just do the Mod Podge to get the paper on initially, but that spray I feel like does a good job at holding it down and holding it flat so that it doesn't end up wrinkling, because sometimes that can be an issue with the Mod Podge. Now this is the matte, not the gloss. If you got the gloss, it would be a little easier to clean off, but I really like the way the matte looks better. Then I go back to the first one, and I'll do one side. Now I'll have to wait for it to dry in order to do the next sides. Make sure that if any gets along to the front side there, that you get it wiped off so that it's not too thick on it. So then I'm going to wait for all of those to dry, and I'll finish the other sides. Now it's time to partially fill that hole in the top with hot glue, and then I have some 3-inch little sticks that I've cut. And sometimes you want them to be like this one where it's a little bit crooked, kind of fun, give it a little bit of character. And this does use quite a bit of glue, so you might want to consider doing it with the larger glue gun. And when you get it about half full, put your little twig in, go ahead. And this one has a nice little diagonal cut to it, adding more character. Set that off to the side so it can dry. You want to take about a 12-inch long strip of burlap. This is approximately 1 inch wide. And I like it kind of frayed, so I'll take the last couple of strands out of the bottom here and just one strand off of both sides. That kind of gives it that characteristic country type feel. Now you'll notice these aren't super straight and flat, and it doesn't really matter because we kind of want it a little bit crazy and just kind of to maintain that country look. I will add the burlap piece to it. And for this, I just do a very simple little knot. So we'll do that with the other two as well. So now our pumpkins are all done and ready to be part of my fall decor.